We've got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rob Allen. If you guys don't know him by now, you guys are doing something seriously wrong. We've had two other interviews before this that were absolute fire. I'm so excited to learn from him today. Today's topic is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be something a little bit fun and innovative. And Rob was starting to tell me about it, and I immediately cut him off. I was like, whoa, this is too good. We got to save it. Let's talk about it there. Rob, how are you?
Good. I got to say, I am shocked to be back for a third time. I was kind of thinking, I was like, Chase, the first two interviews, I feel like I gave away the farm. Like, I think I said everything I could say about email within that time constraint. So I was excited to be back for a third time. But one thing I was kind of thinking, and let me share my screen just to go over this. I don't know if you know this, but I was going over your YouTube channel before, and I don't think you've had very many people come back on. What, like you have very few two-time guests and very few three-time guests. I think there's only like one or two other people. So when are we getting our jackets? Like, I don't know if you've seen an SNL where they send these little jackets to people who've hosted for 5 times, but are we getting them in the mail soon? Or are you going to start doing this for people who've been on more than one time?
Yeah, let me go grab your address from your link at the very bottom of your email. Actually, it's funny, for our Black Friday Summit, Nikki, one of our speakers, I think sent us all gifts. And she just sent me one lately saying, hey, sorry to ruin the surprise, but I stole your address from your unsubscribe link at the bottom of your email, your footer, and it bounced back. And I didn't even realize I had my old condo on there. So I went and updated that. So yeah, we'll have to do this. If you're listening and you guys like Rob, if you guys like the content from before, show some love on this video. I'd love to bring them back. And I basically bring back people that crush it. And you clearly have, and you're the man. So the jacket will probably come on the fourth or fifth time. So stay tuned.
Well, I thought you might say it would come late, so I do have like a number 3 here that I can just put on as an honorary thing while we go through this.
So good, dude.
But I did want to put together some slides because I think it's kind of helpful sometimes. Oh, that fell off. I think it's kind of helpful sometimes to be able to set pacing, and so that you guys can follow along and give something interesting rather than just my head the whole time. So let me try to put this in presenter mode for a second. How do I do this? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Can you see my screen? Can you see me making this awful SNL jokes? Okay, so if you guys haven't seen the first 2 interviews on Chase's channel that we did together, they became kind of like cult-like followings in the email world. Like, somehow they kind of took off. I just kind of spilled the beans on like 34 different email marketing strategies, and they are very good. I actually find myself going back to watch them sometimes, and they're kind of hilarious. I don't like to watch interviews of myself, but these are kind of fun to follow along with. But I don't know if you've added this up, Chase, but between these 2 videos, there's like 8,000 people who've watched this, which that's bigger than my email list. Your email list is bigger than mine. But I was like, what are we going to say to entertain a bigger audience? What are we going to say to, what can I say beyond this? Because mostly I'm just known in this world as an email guy. And so I kind of was
yeah, not to cut you off. I've been talking to some people for whatever reason that are from small towns, and these videos come out have more views than some of the people I'm talking to, like, have, actual people in their cities or their towns.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a small town. I think where I grew up was like 20 or 30,000 people. So, I mean, half the city would have watched it, although the small town I grew up in, they're not interested in the e-commerce world. But just like last time, I kind of racked my brain just a little bit, and I was like, I think I could discuss something that I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk about before. And so, Chase, for the first time, I'm actually going to be trying to unveil what I'm calling a new online career path, and it's accelerated. So it's not a job like a job in a traditional sense, but what I'm seeing, and like, one of the things as we've built our agency through the years, I noticed that, a lot of people go into this, or they want to be a solo operator, or they want to be an agency owner. But ultimately, a lot of these things, what they really want is just the freedom, the flexibility, and the pay of a really high paying job, a status path. And I think that there's this new pocket that's kind of emerging that people, if you acquire a few skills, you can become an entirely new category of online performer, not a freelancer, not an agency owner, something I'm calling, well, I'll get to that later, but a whole new path is kind of emerging. And I think that a lot of you guys who are in this space, and particularly in the e-commerce and email marketing and copywriting space, if you just add on a couple new skills to maybe something that you're already doing, or maybe just really focus on adding these skills to the current services that you're offering, I think you could take advantage of this and you will get a massive leg up on your competition. And so I think it's kind of a fun thing. And so I'm gonna be talking about this for the first time ever. Chase, I wrote one email to my email list, kind of flirting with this idea, and I got a very good response. So yeah, we're unveiling.
Let's do it. Let's unveil it. I'm excited.
Okay. Okay. So I think you said we have 30 minutes for this. So what I'm going to try to share in the next 30 minutes, and I do have a hard stop, so we'll try to cover all this, is I want to give you guys an idea of what this new and emerging path that I'm seeing in the e-commerce space is right now. And really, I don't see anybody talking about it. You know, Chase, you might actually have insight into this because you work with so many big brands, but maybe you haven't given it a label just yet. Maybe you've noticed these patterns emerging, but you haven't just given it a term. But I want to show you what it is, and I want to show you guys how to take advantage of it. And I want to show you guys specifically why it's a shortcut for breaking into the C-suite level, you know, those executive level positions, earning power, while still having the freedom and flexibility that comes along with being a solo operator or an agency owner. And, you know, one of the things about this is something that as we built our agency through the years, we started to have this level of agency and like this level of autonomy for different brands that we worked with that allowed us to really scale up the business side of things while having, you know, this brand recognition, this status level. And it didn't require that much more work than a lot of you freelancers are doing, but it comes with a lot more upside in terms of the pay. So that's a big benefit for you guys. And then I wanted to kind of map out, you know, how to use this, what I'm calling a career path, to help with client retention and scaling any service-based business. Chase, you know this better than anyone. Our industry is wrought with agencies that get started and then the client says, you know, our last agency burned us. It was the worst ever experience ever. And you're like, yes, we're going to make it. We're going to solve all these problems. And then you get in, you work with them for a few months, and the worst thing ever starts to happen in some cases where the client lets you go or you have to let them go for different reasons. And some of those could be related to skills that you have and the promises you made. And some of them could just be related to the client in general. But retention is a big piece to scaling a service-based business. You want to be able to keep your clients for a very long time. And this actually eliminates that problem of clients kind of coming in, leaving your ecosystem. This makes clients beg you to keep working with you for months and months and months and years and years and years. And the only way that they'll leave you is if you fire them. So this is a cool thing that I really recommend a lot of freelancers and cooperators roll out. And I want to be showing you guys exact people to follow, exact skills to acquire, and the milestones along this process. So I try to map it all out and just give you everything, give you the farm. We'll obviously give you some email tips, upsell scripts, advertising strategies, and a bunch more stuff. But I wanted to kind of just go over what I'm hoping to cover in the next, I guess I'm at 25 minutes now. So I want to start this out with a question for you, Chase. What do you think is the dream of, you know, I put dream of every marketer, but really it's the dream of all of us as we go, as we choose career paths, as we choose jobs, as we pursue building a business. What would you say the dream that we all have? And I'll give you a hint. It starts with the letter C.
The dream. I think it's waking up and being able to work from your sweats on your couch. Is that the C sound for working from your couch?
Working from your couch. Couch is a good guess. Some other good guesses that you might have said are conversions, clicks, copy, creative, CPMs, maybe lower CPMs, to write some control shattering copy, call to, you know, better calls to action, better content. I don't know what it is. These are all words that are in our space that we think of. But for me, what I think it is we want a career with a C in the job title, you know, a CMO, a chief marketing officer, and a new kind of chief level role that I've seen roll out is chief growth officer, where it's taking on some of those marketing skills and rolling them out into how to grow a business or a brand. Or, you know, the real one that a lot of us are shooting for, CEO, that chief executive officer, where we're the owner of a business, a true business, or we're the owner of like a brand. And it comes with a good payoff to do this. So it's a noble goal to want that C in front of your job title, because, you know, I did some research on this beforehand just to pull up, like, what is the average salary of a chief marketing officer if you were to go and kind of pursue this skill? And the base, it looks like the average salary. So you could be in Topeka, Kansas, or you could be in New York City. I don't know where you are, when you're watching this, but the average salary is $176,000 a year, which is pretty good money. But that typically comes with some other things and some other perks along the way, like equity, status, bonuses, and bragging rights to say, I'm building this brand. Like, I'm responsible for all the marketing efforts of this business and all the success that they end up having as a revenue side of things. We all know it's the marketing team that's doing it, right? But the big problem is, and so it's a good thing to shoot for, but the problem is this is really hard, at least in the traditional sense. And this is one of my favorite memes at the moment. The teacher says the test isn't that hard. This is kind of fun. But the problem is, if you pursue this path of going and achieving that C-level role, it's very difficult, because this is what it kind of looks like. And it is a pyramid that only few people make it to the top of this. So it may start different for you. Like, I actually never got a degree in traditional marketing roles, or marketing or any of that stuff. Got a degree in finance. But a lot of people, they start this run up to make it to that C-level role, where they get a degree in, marketing, business, or communications. And that takes 2 to 4 years to potentially complete, depending on how smart you are or how many accelerated credits you came in with at the beginning. Then you roll that degree in and over into an entry-level role at an agency or an e-commerce brand, or other marketing business where you're doing some level of marketing. And what happens is you stay stuck at that level for 1 to 3 years, and you graduate to a mid to senior level role, which then you stay at for another 1 to 3 years. Then a lot of these companies, like, if you're trying to really progress, they're like, we can't have people on our executive team without an MBA, right? So you've got to go to school, and that's going to cost you another, $120K, 180. I don't know what school costs at this point, but I know it's very expensive, and it's going to cost you another 2 years of your time. At which point they say, hey, now you can graduate up a role. You can go into a senior leadership role, and you've got to stay at that level. Hopefully, and all this time, you got to hope you're just staying with the same company so you can keep, building your team, building your skills, but you're probably jumping around a good amount too. So you might go down a peg, you might come up a peg, depending on where things land, but that might take 3 to 5 years. And then maybe, just maybe, you make it to the C-suite. So we put in all this effort, and I say it's a 10 to 20 year saga, because this is the old way of making it into those C-level roles and that C-level earning power that a lot of us start our entrepreneurship and business journey wanting. But I don't know about you, Chase, but this feels hard. This feels long.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, though.
Yeah, I admire it, and I say that if this were 1952, I think it's a great goal, but it's 2021. So this is what I'm calling the new way. And you notice the last one was a pyramid where only very few people can make it to the top. But the new way that I'm kind of seeing this roll out is more of like a domino strategy, where it doesn't matter where you're starting from. If you can get that first domino to drop, and you know that the rest of them, and you know where to place the rest of them, you can get the whole thing to fall down relatively quickly, much faster. Sometimes, the last one I said 10 to 20 years, and that may be on the being nice side of things. This one is, you could possibly do it in 1 to 5 years to make it all the way to that C-suite level role. And it just requires a few skills along the way. So this is something I don't think, is out of the realm of possibility for most of us who are potentially watching, because notice the core pieces that I've kind of mapped out here. It just involves a decent understanding of email, which me and Chase, we are kindred spirits on how much we love email. We probably I have Klaviyo tattoos sitting on my desk, temporary tattoos. We love email. Email is the bread and butter of so many businesses, particularly e-commerce businesses. And it is the foundation that we really all start from. So if you can get that piece really moving, then it just requires 1 to 2 more dominoes before this thing just really falls for you and you get into that C-suite level earning power. The next piece of it is that CRO and conversion rate optimization of the actual store. So this is not that big of a leap for a lot of us who are working in e-commerce already. If we're doing email marketing, if we're doing any degree of management of an email system, it's applying a lot of those same principles that we think about in email just to the store. So what are we saying to our customers? How are we managing on-site pop-ups? How are we thinking about landing pages and that stuff? Then, so if we can nail that, there's one last domino. And if you can get this last one in order, just nail one of the big 3 traffic channels. So that's going to be, your YouTube, your Facebook, your Google ads. If you can do that, you deliver an insane amount of value to a business. And you can do this all from the outside. You don't have to be on the inside. These are just skills you have to acquire. So the perks of this path compared to the old way of doing things, it is great for your clients because you can be the one to actually solve a lot of the core problems that these businesses face. And it's all going to be foundationally tied to the skills that you have. So they don't have to go to 10 different agencies to do all this stuff. It's just going to be you and a small team managing this on behalf of a brand. And the clients love this because they don't have to be guessing like, what is the path for us to scale our business? We want to be acquired. We want $100 million in revenue, whatever it is. This is the foundation of it. Every business I look at, Chase, every business we work with, this is the holy grail. This is what you have to tell them that you have to do. Email, CRO, big 3 traffic channel. If you nail that, you can scale a business to 7, 8 figures. And in some cases, I've seen it even go beyond that just from this alone. And it allows you really to have that impact of an executive level role with the independence of not necessarily being in a business. All you have to do is just manage these 3 parts. And it comes along with really great compensation because imagine if you're doing this for a brand. Chase, I know you guys work with a lot of different brands in your agency. And if you just manage the email piece of it, that's worth thousands of dollars a month to a brand. But if you manage these other core parts as well, which I can show you how to do that, all you have to do, and you get paid even more commensurate with this. So it comes along with better pay, comes along with a lot of status, because if you do this, you're the kingmaker. And also businesses sometimes will cut you in. If you just show them this blueprint, sometimes they're like, okay, we want to talk to you about equity as a potential. And a lot of times when we work with brands, and I don't know if this is the case for you sometimes, Chase, but they see the value we add just on the email side of things. And they're like, let's talk about bringing you on for a board seat. Let's talk about giving you a cut of the business because you're adding so much value to us. Now that's a whole nother ballpark where most freelancers are, trying to feed themselves every month. This is how you get, exit potential from a role. And so you can do it. You can do this in 1/10 of the time, and you can do it from many different businesses. When we were building up our agency, we would have, 10, 15, 20 clients at a time that we could do this for without killing ourselves either, because it's just a couple core pieces. So when you go in this order specifically, I just wanted to kind of map this out. It immediately increases the company's profitability because email is the bread and butter on profits. And because we're starting to think about some of those conversion things, it 2 to 50x's in some cases store revenue. And I know that was kind of an aggressive number to put, the 50x, but I showed an example of one brand where we actually just did this for, where they were making around $729 when they first started with us. Now that was because they had a big refunds and slow months, turned some stuff off. So that's screenshot is the worst case scenario. But then look, just a few months later, $55,000 in sales, all from those just core dominoes that we just mapped out there. You are also the person who's creating the content and building the brand, because you're just, and this in some cases is going to be an advisor. You're going to be advising on what they should do. So you don't have to necessarily do all of it, but because you're giving them this playbook, in other words, you're basically just doing all the role of a C-suite level person with way more freedom and leverage because you're actually on the outside of this business. Does that make sense, Chase? Kind of how I'm kind of thinking of this?
Yeah, absolutely. This is awesome.
Okay. So how do we do this? How do we go in order to kind of map some of this stuff out? So the first domino that I had listed out there was our email overhaul, going in and kind of thinking about, email as a profit engine for a business. And so what I like to think of, and some of these are just the core things that you want to focus on, is just, getting all those core flows that we know, your welcome series, your cart abandoned, your browser abandoned, the post-purchase, all those different flows that we know exist. That's a must. Get that on for any brand. And learn the skills that allow you to actually be able to do that. And typically what you want to be doing during this stage of your building this new skill set is you want to take email, because a lot of brands that you find and you'll run across will have email revenue that's around 1 to 3%. I don't know if you see this, Chase, but a lot of brands we come in contact with, it's like, how in the heck are you generating 1% of your revenue from email to 20 to 30%? Because you've got to get that email revenue up as a core foundation of how you're going to build the next couple stages. And the ultimate goal of this is you really want to be managing the entire ecosystem of the email program and building a cult-like following for brands, particularly just on the email side of things. So when you do this, it's going to add a tremendous amount of value for a brand. And so here's some people, skills, and milestones that you want to be considering as you go in to try to knock that first domino down and go pursue this skill set. Become good enough with an email service provider, that typically the one that is recommended in our industry, e-commerce, the most, Klaviyo, and they are incredible when it comes to, sending all the stuff and integrating with Shopify, making it super seamless. Klaviyo has some excellent free resources, which I recommend everyone go through their certification program, because it is a great foundation to start to be thinking about, like, how do I actually send an email? How do I think about customers and segmentation and things of that nature? And then, Chase, of course, you have an incredible email e-com course, which kind of walks you guys through the bones of this and how to really start to think about email as a profit engine for particularly e-commerce brands. And this is my one shameless plug. I do have a course on this, becoming ridiculously good in Klaviyo in 5 days, which can go a little deeper than some of the Klaviyo stuff that you might get for free. Then also at this same time that you're kind of developing this skill set, you want to start to think about how to improve your copywriting, because we're going to try to stack some skills together. We want to be thinking about the email not just as a blasting tool. We want to be thinking about it as a way to contact our customers and segment people out. We want to think about the words we use to come into contact with them. So one thing I like to recommend people do is subscribe to all the top e-commerce brands, some of my personal favorites, and start to study some of their work. Some of my personal favorites are Organifi, Mr. Jones, Smarter Nutrition. I really love BioTrust, although brace yourself because they go aggressive on email. But it's a good spectrum to start to score things like, okay, this is direct response. This is just, graphic images with mostly just offers, and start to think about how to study these things, study the subject line, study how they map out offers and things of that nature. Get on all the top copywriting email lists. That is a must. You want to be studying from the best of the best. And that's people, like Matt Bockenstedt, John Bajakovich, all the copywriters that are recommended in our circles. Study what they do, learn from them, because you want to start to progress that skill of your copywriting as well. Then go read some great copywriting books. There's lists out there you can find. I have a personal list of a few that I recommend everyone read. But brush up that skill and start to refine it in the background. You don't have to be a 10 out of 10 copywriter to be really good at this, but you need to be good enough that you can be a little bit dangerous. You want to be better than the average Joe off the street. Then also start to think about some design basics, because this is a core part of email, particularly for e-commerce. Now, you can just take some free Canva tutorials. Like, this is what I recommend a lot of people do. Just get good enough to be able to recreate things. This is the best skill you can actually do. I like to recommend people just pull up an email that they think is well designed and try to recreate that in Canva, because you can just put images into, your emails. You don't have to do Figma and all that stuff. You can, for a V1, you can just do images, text, and buttons, and that is good enough to really design some really good emails. I recommend just kind of playing around with Canva, because it's going to help you at least know what doesn't work and know what looks good and what doesn't look good. And so that you can start to be either the manager of a process like this or the actual person who does it. In many cases, we actually do this in our agency ourselves as copywriters, because it's not very far as a skill. And I know, Chase, you're working on something pretty cool on this front. I don't know if you can speak to that just yet, but
yeah, I'm basically taking like a Canva, but making it specifically for email. So there are a bunch of cool templates, a bunch of cool blocks that will integrate directly within whatever email platform that you're using. You can export the HTML. So depending on when people are listening or watching to this, the alpha or the beta will be out in December of 2021. and then it'll publicly be available in January or February of 2022. So yeah, it should be cool.
That will be epic. And that will be so foundational to really moving in this direction of thinking about the segmentation, thinking about the copy, and thinking about the design, because all these things come together in a really well-built email program. So I wanted to give you guys some milestones also to really start to think about how this, when you're ready to think about the next domino. So it's really low bar here. I think if you can do this where you can take over an email program for one brand and increase that email revenue to at least 20% of the total sales that's coming in, that is going to be a sign to me that you are really smart about segmentation. You know how to send campaigns. You are using converting copy, and you're pretty much set to be able to move on to the next stage of this thing. Now, I put a little timeline here just to see, depending on where your skill set is today, if you're further along, this may actually be much shorter. You may actually be able to skip this step entirely. But if you're just kind of starting out, you're just dabbling in copywriting and email marketing, this could take 1 to 6 months, but it's much faster than previously. And you want to be doing this for just one brand. That's all you really need to do this for. And you're ready to move on to your next domino. So the next domino in this process was kind of managing that CRO, managing all of the conversion rate elements that are actually going on the storefront. Now, a lot of the principles that you learn at the copywriting or at the email stage of this just apply right over to the stuff you're doing on store. We want good copy. We want to be thinking about increasing average order value. We want to be thinking about segmentation on our storefront. So the way I think about this and some of the core distinguishing parts of this phase is kind of managing the pop-ups on site and your on-site messaging. Now, this is critical, and you can actually do this within Klaviyo itself. You can show different segments of people, different messaging, and you want to be trying to get the whole goal of this is so that when people come to your website, it increases the response rate. So we can show different people different messages that we know is more relevant to them. Maybe they have a purchase order that's expected to come up. Maybe they just placed an order from you. Maybe they've never bought from you before. You can show all these different people, different messaging, but you want to be starting to think about how do we take the storefront and view it as another way to be messaging and branding on to our customers. Now, at this stage, really, your goal is another big goal at this stage is to try to convert 5 to 20, in some cases, even more than this, % of people coming to the website to subscribers, and also increasing that conversion rate to buyers as well. So you can do things with some of the pop-ups by capturing SMS, capturing emails, but also doing some of that messaging, as I mentioned, to just about 2 different segments who are on your list. Maybe you got your big spenders. You always want to show them something different than everyone else. And another big thing at this stage is rolling out upsells and improving the performance of landing pages. And these 3 things in tandem can be powerful for a brand. So I wanted to give you guys also some, my slide didn't skip through. So I wanted to give you guys some milestones also at this stage, some people skills and milestones that you really want to be thinking about acquiring. So with the on-site messaging, this is not very different than the previous one. The Klaviyo's free resources, they have a lot of stuff on this. You can show so many different things to different people who are in different segments. Go through that training, go through those videos. You need to know how to be thinking about this because most people don't even know you can do this. Think about how you can treat different people differently based on what you know about them. And that first party data is so powerful. Chase, again, your email ecom program is so good for this. People need to just buy it. I don't know what's holding you back. I also touch on this in the Klaviyo training of my own. Now let's talk about landing pages. Nick Sharma, he may be the king of landing pages in our space when it comes to D2C and ecom. And some of his brands that he works with have landing pages that make you so envious that you're like, gosh, how are you so good, Nick? He actually gave a tool away because people kept asking about it. People kept bugging about it. It's called builder.io. And it's a template you can put in. It's proven to convert. It includes elements of social proof, why people should buy, and you can actually roll this out for your clients. So I actually recommend a lot of people just go to this template, or if the brand you're working with has this, has a capability in-house, you can just model some of the ones that you've seen Nick do because they work better than any other ones. It's got all the core elements of conversion in place, but you want to be starting to think about this because the landing pages are such a core part of, ultimately, even your email performance will come down to how good are the landing pages, because everything's going to hit this page before they can actually buy. Did I cut you off, Chase? Oh, okay. And again, we're still at this point, I think it's just important to think about some of those copywriting books and email lists that you want to be a part of, to be brushing up on some of the core elements of direct response to include in these things. And then the other big one, and this is a huge needle mover that most email marketing agencies just don't touch, but it's not that difficult, is upsells. And this is something that if you can roll this out for a brand, you can actually do the whole integration process yourself. It's very simple, and it's actually getting easier. When I first started doing this for brands, the tools weren't even built in natively to Shopify. So it'd be like, you have to build in these like clunky things, use 2 different shopping carts, all this stuff. And it's like, you guys have a massive advantage because you're coming way further down the innovation curve, I guess. My favorite personally is one-click upsell, and cart hook is also a good option, depending on which pricing model makes the most sense for brands that you might be working with. But you want to be using converting templates. Now, I will be very generous and just tell you guys, do not do what most people do with upsells. Most people try to sell a new thing, just sell people more of what they just bought. And I've talked about this on Adam Moody's podcast a little bit, but particularly in the space we like to play in, which is like health and supplement brands, you want to just give people more of what they just bought on a discount. Now, you can get creative with how you do it. We do sometimes, 50% off a second tub or bottle, or a free bottle when you buy 2 or more. But this is exponentially valuable to brands. Like, I can't describe how much value this adds to different brands. I thought I had a screenshot of how this actually plays out, but we've seen some brands before where, the average order value is somewhere in the neighborhood of $45. Roll out the upsells, that goes to $65. And their media buyer is ready to marry you at this point, because you have just opened up a whole new world of possibility when it comes to acquisition, scaling, sending emails becomes more profitable. And it's very easy for people to actually go in and manage. It's very templated, and it's just something that most agencies just don't touch this part. Just go do this. And most freelancers don't even know you can. So just go do this. So some milestones that you want to shoot for at this stage is you want to be managing the storefront for just one brand. So typically you just roll that one brand, you're managing their email program, say, hey, can I do your storefront as well? And you want to be trying to grow that by 10 to 20%, purely based on some of the stuff you're doing with your on-site messaging. And you can track that through UTMs. You can track that through however you want, of just stabilizing revenue month to month. I don't care how you track it. Just make sure you're trying to grow that revenue. And you might be able to do more than this, but just covering some of the bases we just talked about here. In some cases, you might be able to grow the revenue of a brand by 20, 30, 50% or more. And this is very easy. Most of these are very templated check boxes. You just need to be checking. Just check the box. Timeline to do this is 1 to 2 months after you've actually been in the email program. So the last one here, and this is our final domino, the one that most people never get to, but all you have to do at this stage is nail one traffic source, because it really only takes one to scale to 7 to 8 figures. And I don't know if you see this across your brands, Chase, or the brands you guys work with, but it's just one is the bulk. Most people think they need to be everywhere. You just need to nail one channel and you can get there. And the great news is you don't have to be the one to actually manage the media spend. You can just oversee the process. You don't have to be the one doing it. You just come in with the strategy in terms of what is going to be what we're doing, who are we targeting for our cold acquisition, who are we targeting in terms of retargeting, and what is our content creation strategy, how are we sourcing UGC to launch this onto the channel. And you're going to be picking the medium. So you need to decide where makes the most sense for your brand and the brand that you're working with. Could be YouTube, could be Facebook, could be Google. I don't know what it's going to be for the different brands. In a lot of cases for e-com, back before Facebook decided to blow itself up and become Meta and just give no conversions, it was almost blanket rule, you're going to go on Facebook, but that is changing. And we're actually seeing a lot of brands be able to shift to massively profitable YouTube ad campaigns. And some of the people that I like to study at this stage is Alex Becker. He doesn't really talk about a lot of this stuff anymore, but he is actually the person I credit all of my skill in terms of writing copy for advertisements and thinking about advertisements to our boy Alex, because he is a really smart dude, and he runs a company now actually that helps you with tracking on ads, but he is not creating content actively around this, but all his old stuff is really good. Justin Brook also runs a really cool mastermind community for advertising where you can go in, learn the nuts and bolts of these things so that you just know how to at least oversee it. So you can get a media buyer anywhere. And they actually have a network they can connect you to. And I think it's like $9 a month. And Kurt Malley, he's my boy when it comes to YouTube ads. There's nobody better when it comes to talking about this. Just find his stuff, go down the rabbit hole. And there is some paid products he offers, but the free stuff is gold as well. So the milestone for this stage is you want to be, creating content on a big 3 traffic source and getting that presence there. And then thinking about how you're going to be able to scale traffic at a break-even level. Now, if a brand you're working with is already actually running ads, just stick your nose in there. Sometimes like having a marketing mind, someone who knows email, copywriting, all these different pieces, just asking a few questions around this is all it takes to actually expose, how can we grow? How can we start to scale? Because if you hit a break-even point with a traffic channel, you just unlocked the keys to the kingdom. And a lot of cases, a lot of these e-commerce brands we come into contact with, they're losing money on ads. Like they're willing to lose money on those front-end acquisitions because they can make it up in the long run, but shorten that cycle. A lot of times we work with brands, like even at low levels of spend. Like here's an example of one where they were very cautious. They only let us spend $40,000, but look at that. We're doubling their money. And we're like, how much more doubling your money do you want to do? Because that is a good place to be in a business where you are actually making money on that first sale. Timeline for this, it is completely realistic to do this within 3 to 6 months of coming in, starting to roll out some strategies on how to think about ads and how you're sourcing ads and how you're rolling those out. And you just want to focus on that one traffic channel. And if you're at a break-even level in 3 to 6 months, you are the king. You are the kingmaker at this point. And so that is how you do it. This is what I'm calling a free marketing officer. And it is very different than your chief marketing officer or your chief executive officer in that the core part of this is that you're totally free. You're an independent operator. You're a free agent, but you have all that earning power that comes along with the C-suite. So this is something I'm thinking about. And this is something that I'm hoping more people can take advantage of. Because as you can see, rolling it out in a very domino-like fashion for just a few brands does not take that much, but it is so, so powerful if you can actually do it. So Chase, I don't know if you have any questions, but that's what I had to share. That's something I'm thinking about at the moment.
That's fire. If someone gets, if a bunch of people go add FMO to their LinkedIn as their new title, will you get a tattoo?
Of FMO. If I create a new job title, I will get a temporary tattoo at least.
Temporary tattoo. No, Rob, this was so good. When we talked about doing a 3rd episode, I had no idea what direction we were going to go in, and I wouldn't have changed a single thing. This is super interesting. I know a lot of people that probably follow you and also follow me. They're kind of at this like crossroads of starting out. Maybe they're into their career. They're kind of into their journey, and they're trying to figure out like, where do I navigate? So I think this is going to be really helpful for a lot of those people. I think you had your email on that last slide. Was it Rob at, what was it, kingsofconversion.com?
Kingsofconversion.com, or hit me up on Twitter. As I said, I'm trying to create more content there. I envy you, Chase. You can create so much content over on Twitter, but yeah, the best place to find me is my email list, where I send lots of emails to you every day, actually.
So the email list then is kingsofconversion.com.
Yeah, I can throw it back up on the screen if it's easy.
Oh yeah, pull that up. And then the Twitter, are you Rob Writes Copy?
At Rob Writes Copy.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
Keep
Kings
it
of
simple.
Conversion, Rob Writes Copy. Awesome. This will be in the description. Dude, I so appreciate you. This was fire.
Yeah, hopefully this was helpful. And hopefully some of you guys actually take me up on this. And maybe we'll see some free marketing officers floating around on LinkedIn. But I think it could be really cool to think about this in a new way, and a new categorization of yourself away from just an agency owner or away from just a freelancer, in adding value to businesses as that marketing officer level, but being free. I think we all want that freedom element too.
I love that. And as you notice, Rob's sticker of the 3 for his 3rd appearance here fell off. We need to get this guy a jacket. So show some love, drop some likes, drop some comments, follow him on Twitter so we can bring him back for time 4. And then Adventure Time 5, or hopefully at that time I'll have a jacket in hand for him. Bob, I appreciate you.
Very cool. I appreciate it, man.
All right, cheers.